Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. As we have just rolled over into 2018, I would like to take a moment to thank you for sharing some of your time with me each week here on the SA Matters radio show. I appreciate all the feedback I receive about the episodes and the guests that we have. Podcasting is truly a labor of love. It takes about 2 hours each week to script, prepare, record, and edit each episode, and about another hour if I have a guest. Now, I'm not complaining. I love doing this show. And soon, we'll be starting our 5th year. Whenever I look back on the podcast statistics, which is not very often, I'm amazed at how many times the episodes are being downloaded. It's not just the new episodes. Listeners are going back and listening to some of the past episodes too. And for good reason. There are some amazing interviews of near-miss survivors. And I'm going to share those episodes with you along with the feature segment on herd mentality right after we roll this podcast intro. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Captain Tim Tolbeck from the Sheboygan Fire Department, and you are listening to Dr. Richard Gasaway on SA Matters Radio. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 193 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. Did you know that I've been sharing the message of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making at live program events for 12 years now and have trained just over 62,000 students, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, aviation workers, and more. Really, this message is for anyone who works in a high-risk environment. If you know someone who could benefit from training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, ask them to reach out to me by visiting the SAMatters.com website and clicking on the Contact Us tab. If you're new to this podcast, you got some homework to do by going back and listening to some of the past episodes. And if you want to learn some amazing lessons of near-miss survival stories, then I'd suggest some of the most popular episodes. And I'm going to go through those now, so you might want to pause the podcast and grab a pen and paper and write these episode numbers down. Episode 17 with Doug Abernathy, a double fatal fire. Episode 18 with Sean Dolan, a Flashover survival story. Episode 19 with Stephen Hough. He was shot in the face at a high-risk entry. 21 was Sean Balantic. He was struck by a car on a highway incident. Episodes 22 and 23, John Lightly was caught in a flashover event and survived. Episode 33, Adam Farrar had 2 near-miss events at the same fire. Episode 35 and 36 with Lionel Crowther. He survived the fire that killed 2 firefighters. Episode 42, Stephen Page. He became lost and disoriented during an evacuation order. Episode 43 and 44, Scott Burnette talks about the death of Captain Jeff Bowen at a fire in Asheville, North Carolina. 45, Dave Martin was involved in a wildland fire burnover. Episode 53, Brian Mulligan came in contact with an electrical line. Episode 55, Jason Corthell was caught in a structural collapse. Episode 57, Jeff Cheshire overrun by fire conditions at a structure fire. Episode 64, Nick Martin had 2 near-miss events on the same at the same event on Christmas Day. Episode 67, Todd Budd fell through a roof. Episode 80, Morris Lentz trapped in a structural collapse. Episode 81, Tim Colbeck and Chase Longmiller were impacted and trapped by rapidly changing fire conditions. Episodes 103 and 104, Eric Dryman was caught in a flashover. Episodes 116 and 117, Ryan Pyle was at a residential dwelling fire where one of his fellow firefighters got killed. Episodes 162 and 163 in Lynchburg, Virginia, a house fire evacuation just in time. Episode 170, Brad Davidson, near-miss event at an industrial fire. Episodes 183 to 185 recently were up. St. Charles, Missouri, a house fire event that resulted in a mayday. And this is just a small listing of the amazing near-miss stories. I'm dedicated to improving your safety and your survival and to helping you accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. And speaking of sharing the message, today I'm coming to you from Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada, where I'm in town to help develop some situational awareness programs for the employees of Syncrude Canada, an oil refinery that is located here in Fort McMurray. This is a big facility, and this is going to be a big project. So you'll probably hear me delivering several podcasts from here throughout 2018. I'd like to thank Syncrude and ExxonMobil for the opportunity to work with your employees to improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. Oh, and we're also going to be developing a virtual reality simulator too. Get this. They want to ensure that their virtual reality simulator includes critical components of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. What a novel concept. I include this because of how many times I have seen simulators that are, in a word, horrible. Just horrible. At least ExxonMobil and Syncrude, they're doing it right. In case you missed last week's episode, you might want to swing back and give it a listen. I interviewed DuPont Fire Chief Larry Creekmore. Larry was the third in unit on the Amtrak train derailment in Washington State on December 18. And I happened to be in Seattle the day after that happened to deliver a program for the Buckley Fire Department. And Buckley Fire Chief Alan Predmore was on the incident management team for the response to the Amtrak train derailment. So he arranged the interview that I had with Larry Creekmore while I was there. And there's some really interesting perspective there for all of us on large-scale incidents. One of the questions I get asked a lot from readers of my blog and listeners of this podcast are, when are you coming to my area, or where are you going to be next? Great questions, and the answer is really easy to find out. I've created a link on my homepage of the website to all the upcoming events, so you just click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events. If you're interested in hosting an event when I'm in your area already, you can then have a companion program. A companion program is on an adjoining day to another program, and for hosting companion programs, you'll get a discount. Okay, in today's feature segment, we're going to talk about cognitive biases, specifically one known as herd mentality. Let's jump into the feature segment now, but when we're done, stick around and I'll tell you where you can attend an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event. I was recently reading some research that mentioned a cognitive bias known as herd mentality, or herd behavior. Stated basically, individuals group together and follow each other for sometimes seemingly inexplainable reasons. This is sometimes referred to as mob mentality, and it's often observed during riots. When one person yells loudly and charges forward, the herd, or the mob, follows. Could this phenomena impact situational awareness and decision-making? Let's explore that. Follow the leader. Children are taught from a very young age to play a game called Follow the Leader. And they do it in lockstep fashion, without questioning the leader's intent. Newly hired employees are sometimes taught to do the same thing. Follow the leader and don't question the leader's intent. In fact, those who do question the leader's intent may find themselves ostracized by the leader and maybe even the entire group. So, like good little cherubs, we comply with the leader's orders and we don't question the intent. Forming situational awareness. Situational awareness is an individual process, a process of perception, understanding, and prediction. An individual gathers information using their 5 senses. That information that they gather I call clues and cues about what's happening in the environment around them. That's being perceptive. Then the individual processes the meaning of those clues and cues, forming understanding. Finally, the individual forecasts or anticipates future events. That's called making predictions. When an individual is following the leader, the process of forming personal situational awareness can get overlooked. In fact, some followers defer the process to the leader and follow the orders with little awareness of potentially lurking dangers. If the leader yells charge, the followers charge. This may be appropriate, even necessary, on a military battlefield. But in most other work environments, it may be worth the time for each individual to form their own awareness about what is happening and what might happen in the future, especially if the outcome may be bad. Challenges with situational awareness. There are over 100 barriers that can challenge situational awareness. To learn more about those, visit the SAMatters.com website and read some of the blog articles, or look at some of the books and videos that are available there. I'm not a proponent of using the term lost when discussing situational awareness. For to some extent, everyone, at all times, has some level of awareness. But is it strong? Or stated another way, is it accurate? With so many different barriers that can challenge situational awareness, it's easy to understand how someone operating under changing conditions with time compression and stress can be impacted from a misperception or a misunderstanding. Yet, there are the followers, all conveniently lined up and ready to blindly follow the leader. Why? Because that's what followers are supposed to do. Breaking the herd mentality. Maybe there's a different model that can be applied that could, maybe perhaps, improve safety. Breaking the herd mentality. Maybe there's a different model that can be applied that could, maybe, perhaps, improve safety. Let's teach all of our employees and members how to develop their own situational awareness by teaching them how to gather information and how to form comprehension from that information and how to make predictions of future events based on the currently communicated plan and intent of the leader. I've interviewed hundreds of near-miss and casualty survivors, and I am amazed, perhaps the word should be saddened, how many times they will share with me that they knew the plan being executed by the leader was not going to work, and they held a deep concern about a bad outcome. But they didn't speak up. Rather, they followed the leader like they were taught to do. If only they would have spoken up, they may have prevented a near miss or a casualty event. The leader's obligation. If a leader wants to avoid the herd mentality, and let's acknowledge that some leaders don't want their followers to be thinkers, they want them to be just followers, then the leader needs to establish with the followers a process by which the leader will allow, perhaps even encourage, the expression of concerns for safety prior to the implementation of a plan. Followers are not going to speak up if there is a fear of retribution or ridicule. To learn more about this, you could swing by the blog and put into the search box the 5-step assertive statement process. And there you will see an article called "The Pigs Are Eating Lemons." It's one thing to say, speak up if you have a concern. It's another thing to mean it and to support those who speak up. A few years back, I was delivering a 2-part situational awareness program. On the first day, I had the bosses, and on the second day, I had the frontline workers. On day 1, I was talking to the bosses about the need to avoid the herd mentality and how appropriate it is for followers to speak up if they have a concern. The bosses in the room assured me that my message has been strongly carried throughout the organization, and we didn't need to spend a lot of time on that topic. So I moved on to the next topic. The next day, however, I had about 70 frontline workers in the room, no bosses present. And I asked them to raise their hands if they would speak up and express a concern about an order given to them by a boss. Only 3 hands went up. And one of those who raised their hands qualified it by saying that it would depend on which boss they were dealing with as to whether they would raise their hand. To affirm my suspicions, I then asked the obvious. So the rest of you would blindly follow the leader into a bad situation without expressing a concern. The room fell silent. Then I asked them to raise their hands if they were told by a supervisor sometime during their training that they should speak up if they had a concern. And nearly every hand went up. Finally, I asked if anyone had ever been given the opportunity to actually practice, not just talk about, but practice speaking up. Meaning the workers actually had to, in the presence of others, respectfully disagree with their supervisor about a decision and to express a concern for safety in a simulated or training environment. No hands went up. They all had been told, but none of them had ever actually practiced the action of speaking up. And there, in a room full of relatively young men and women, ranging in age from about 18 to 35, I had my answer as to why the herd mentality is so difficult to overcome. Talk is cheap and easy. Turning talk into action is so much harder. I experience this all the time when I read books on leadership. Reading the words, the equivalent of someone telling me what I should do, and then actually practicing the advice that I have just read are 2 completely different things. If we want to break the herd mentality, we must practice the action of speaking up. I have a favor to ask of you. I launched this podcast to give a voice to those who experienced near-miss events. The stories that have been shared here and at my live events have been amazing and very educational. In case you've missed some of the previous episodes of Near Misses, I've got them in the show notes, and I encourage you to go back and listen to some of them. We need to get more of those lessons shared to a larger audience. So if you've experienced or witnessed a near-miss event and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned, contact me by visiting the SAMatters.com website and clicking on the Contact Us tab. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your on-the-job near-miss could save someone else's life. That's really powerful. What a wonderful gift that would be. If you want to share your experiences, contact me. This episode is the first of 2018. But before we completely close the books on 2017, let me share with you some of the stats from the SA Matters tour of 2017. There were 91 programs delivered, including for the United States Navy, NASA, the Tennessee Health and Safety Conference, FDNY Incident Management Team, the All Hazards Incident Management Team Association, Fire Rescue International, Fire Department's Instructors Conference, the Institution of Fire Engineers, New South Wales Fire and Emergency Services in Australia, the Metropolitan Fire Brigade in Melbourne, Australia, the New Zealand Fire Service, the Amsterdam Fire Brigade, the Dutch Fire Academy, the Antwerp Fire Brigade, the Belgian Center for Expertise in Civil Security, Hartford Fire Department, Texas Fire Educators Conference, the Kansas Incident Management Team Conference, St. Paul Fire Department, International Association of Fire Chiefs, the Washington State Hazardous Materials Conference, Ontario Fire Chiefs Association, the Ontario Fire Training Officers Association, and many, many more. 78 program delivery locations included the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, and Belgium. 11,674 students were trained. There were 56 articles written on the SA Matters blog. There were 52 podcast episodes recorded, 10 webinars hosted, 241,000 plus podcast downloads, 134,000 plus air miles flown, 94 flight segments, 12,491 miles driven, 179 nights in hotels, 1,744 students enrolled in the online academy. I attended 2 conferences for self-development where I didn't teach. 3 products were developed in consultation with others. 1 new program was developed. A master instructor was trained. I released the 2.0 version of the online academy. I launched 5 live virtual training programs and conducted a National Situational Awareness Day virtual training event. And I also sponsored the Emerging Leader Scholarship at the VCOS Symposium in the Sun for the 8th consecutive year. If you're interested in attending an upcoming SA Matters Tour Stop event, you can join me on January 10 and 11 in Henrico County, Virginia, January 20 at BX Swan Lake in Alberta, Canada, January 21 in Penticton, Alberta, January 27 in St. Louis, Michigan, January 28 in Portage, Michigan. Now, earlier I had announced January 29 to February 2 that I would be in Evansville, Indiana. Unfortunately, that program has been postponed because I have jury duty that week. So we're going to reschedule that sometime later in the spring, in April or May, and I'll announce that. So January 29 to February 2 in Evansville is postponed. You can join me February 3 in Swissville, Pennsylvania, February 6th in Evans, Colorado, February 7 in Frisco, Colorado, February 12 to 15 in Missouri City, Texas, February 20 in Orlando, Florida, February 21 and 22 in Pipestem, West Virginia, and February 27 in Austin, Texas. If you want to see all the locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop events, just head over to the SA Matters website and click on the upcoming event schedule in that blue box on the right side of the home page. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event in 2018, I'm actively booking those dates now for summer, fall, and winter of 2018. If you think your company, agency, association, regional conference, state conference, or national conference might want to host a program, just contact me through the samatters.com website. I have great staff who will make the entire process super easy for you. The last time I was delivering programs in southwest Minnesota, I stopped by and visited the sponsor of this podcast, Midwest Fire. Midwest Fire is a fire truck manufacturing company that makes amazing all-poly-bodied fire apparatus that's changing the industry. If you've not checked them out yet, you need to. Just go to MidwestFire.com. That's MidwestFire.com. Anyhow, while I was there, I got a chance to sit down and talk to some of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Here, I got the chance to ask account executive Dalton Lingbeck about the all-poly design of Midwest Fire trucks. Let's listen in. Okay, Dalton, I see in the advertisements that one of the things that differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors is this all poly design. So what does that mean, all poly? Describe that for me.
Yeah, well, poly is actually pretty common in the industry. Poly tanks are seen inside bodies all over. Manufacturers do them all the time. They've started around the 80s, I believe. But all poly means that our tank and body is all poly integrated. It's one big superstructure. You're not sliding a tank inside of a body. You're not sliding a tank anywhere. It's actually one big built body that we do, and it's made of 3/4 inch copolymer. It's extremely durable, and it's industrial grade, and it's the kind of poly you can beat the crap out of.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit of a skeptic there, because you say that poly is durable, and I own a lot of things that are plastic. In fact, I was just at home last week, and we had this appliance that had plastic parts on it, and I accidentally dropped it on the floor, and it didn't shatter, but it just cracked so easy, and and I only dropped it, a couple of feet. So I'm a skeptic. When you say poly is durable, I think of poly or plastic as something that isn't durable, that's going to crack easy or dent easy. So you got to convince me on this one.
Well, yeah, trucks and shoes definitely come up with poly. But let me grab down here something really quick. As you can probably see on the screen right now, this is a piece of poly that we use. It is the same type of material, the same thickness. It's 3/4 inch. And what you might notice on here is that it has bullet holes. So basically, if you trust a bulletproof vest to take bullet holes, when they first tested it, they wanted to shoot holes through it and see if it worked. And you can shoot holes through it. So what do? We did the same exact thing. We wanted to shoot holes in the theory that poly wasn't durable and poly wasn't reliable. And we tried to shoot holes through it, but you can see right here, the bullets actually could not go through. And there's actually a bullet stuck in the bottom of this one because it wouldn't get all the way through. Now, truth be told, there was one weapon that did go through this piece of poly, and it was a 30-06 high caliber rifle. It did go through, but that's a 30-06 high caliber rifle.
So it was a 45 caliber on the other side?
Yep.
And so what I'm looking at is essentially there's marks on the poly where the bullets hit, but as you show me the backside, it didn't go all the way through.
No, yeah, and the backside doesn't even have any dents on the backside.
Huh.
Actually, when we were doing this test video, one of the bullets, I think it was on the 380, actually bounced off back towards the person that shot the piece of poly. So no, the bullets did not go through. They actually either stuck in there or they bounced off.
Okay.
That's how strong this stuff actually is.
All right, so there you have it, right from the horse's mouth, shooting holes, literally, in the concept that poly is not a durable product on which to build a fire truck. So if you're interested in learning more, check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you to Midwest Fire President Sarah Atchison and all your staff for your awesome commitment to improving the safety of first responders. I really appreciate your support of my mission. Hey, if you're not part of the SA Matters community of learners yet, you should consider joining. There are over 50,000 people connected here through my newsletter, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, sharing ideas about how to improve situational awareness and make better decisions under stress, and how to train employees to be critical thinkers and resilient problem solvers. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, it's really easy to do. Just get out your smartphone and text SA Matters to 22828. That's the letter S as in Sam, the letter A as in Adam, and the word matters, all together as one word, SA Matters, to 22828. And you'll get a message back about getting access to my program handouts as well. And you can just consider that a bonus for signing up. If you don't have a smartphone, you just go to SA Matters website and click on the red box on the right side of the home page that says Become a Member. If you want to get connected with me on Twitter, you can follow @RichGasaway on Twitter. If you want to get connected with me on LinkedIn, you can search for Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. If you want to watch my videos, you can do that on the SA Matters YouTube video channel. And you can find that SA Matters TV, all one word, SA Matters TV, on YouTube. You can also get connected with me on Facebook by liking the SA Matters page. Finally, if you would like to advertise your product or service on this podcast, reach out to me. I've had over 250,000 downloads of the podcast. It might be a wonderful way to get the message of your product or service into the ears of our listeners. If you're interested in sponsoring, just go to samatters.com and click the Contact Us tab. Well, that's it. Episode 193 is complete. Thank you to our awesome podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations that have hosted live events. Thank you to all who have attended the virtual training events. Thank you to the more than 1,000 students enrolled in the SA Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners of this podcast show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.